The long-awaited Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics is finally here, and I'm having a blast. I'm full of nostalgia and hype, and can't get enough of these games in this collection. I thought the Marvel vs. Capcom collection will be released in November, but no. Its digital version is released on 12th of September for PlayStation, PC and Switch already. And today, we'll be talking about each title of this collection, starting from the arcade beat-em-up classic, The Punisher, and then moving on to the very first roots of the Versus series. Whether you are here for the infinite combos of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or just looking for a reason to revisit your childhood favorites like X-Men vs. Street Fighter or the very first Marvel vs. Capcom, this collection has it all. I'm Arcadenaut here, and today I wanna take you for a ride. First, the Marvel vs. Capcom series represent a pivotal era in fighting game history and a must-play experience if you're into fighting games. As this genre grew in popularity during the 90s and early 2000s, Capcom led the charge with a series of innovative and entertaining titles in collaboration with Marvel Comics. Combining characters from Marvel Comics and Capcom's game franchises into high-paced tag team battles was a revolutionary concept. This innovation led many people into fighting games, whether on consoles like I did or the arcades. If you are interested in Street Fighter and Marvel Comics, this concept was a huge blessing and the possible entry gateway to both Capcom games and Marvel Comics. All thanks to these Versus titles, I learned about Omega Red, Blackheart, Strider and Jin Saotome when I was like 5 or something, and possibly because of me playing X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Super Heroes vs. Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom along with Tekken 3 on PlayStation 1, they built a foundation of my love for fighting games during late 90s. I'm 100% sure this happened to many people too. But back to the topic, the first thing that strikes you about Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is the presentation. All of the included games have been faithfully preserved and enhanced for modern hardware. The input delays are close to the original, meaning that the controls are highly responsive and nearly perfect close to its arcade original feeling. The visuals are impressive with the classic 2D sprite art shining brightly, especially when playing on modern displays. Depending on your choice, you can change the display setting, maybe giving it an arcade or CRT television feeling, or just turn it off to have complete, pure visual aesthetics. Like they did with the previous beat-em up and fighting collections, another notable feature is the inclusion of each game's Japanese and US versions, allowing players to experience the subtle differences between the regions. This feature is a blessing for Marvel Super Heroes vs. Street Fighter, since the Japanese version, which I played back then, includes an additional character called Norimaro, inspired by a Japanese comedian called Noritake Kinashi. There is also a practice mode for each title with a hit and hurt box included, meaning you can practice in-depth combos whenever you like, or when you wait for online matchmaking. Also, in addition to that, you can queue multiple titles at the same time, whether it be casual or ranked matches. However, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection does not have any cross-platform feature. And as a side note, as far as I know, its PC version still has some matchmaking issues. The lack of cross-platform might be the biggest issue of this collection. I recommend choosing the best version based on where you live so you can have a better experience playing online. And of course, by separating players based on platform, Capcom has effectively limited the pool of opponents, making it harder to find matches, especially during off-peak hours. However, when you find a match, whether it be X-Men vs. Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom 1 or 2, the fun, the nostalgia and the excitement, they all start to hit simultaneously. Even though I live in Japan and use a US PlayStation account, I had no issues playing with other people, rematching repeatedly until one of us had to quit to continue the daily life. I've always played these titles all alone on my PlayStation for years, and although this was my first time playing these against real people, it felt more fun than I expected. Especially, I never expected Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to be this addicting. Before talking about each title of the Versus series, starting with X-Men Children of the Atom, let's quickly dive into the first Capcom and Marvel collaboration title, The Punisher. The Punisher breaks from the tech fighting atmosphere and drops you into a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up experience like Captain Commando. You take control of Frank Castle, the Punisher, or the ever-badass Nick Fury for the second player accompanying you, as you battle through the waves of street-level thugs, weirdo androids, mob bosses, and then the Kingpin himself in your quest for revenge. It's a gritty, brutal experience that fits perfectly with the tone of the Punisher's universe, meaning there are no fancy superpowers. It's just the Punisher with his raw fists, bats, axes, guns, and pure destruction. I believe the fans of beat-em-ups like Final Fight or Streets of Rage will feel at home with the Punisher and enjoy this experience that takes roughly 1 hour to complete. The best thing about the Punisher is that it's a rare gem that hasn't been available on consoles before now. And what really makes this game shine is the fluid combat and the sheer variety of weapons and moves. I still enjoy Captain Commando and Final Fight more. Still, it's a fun and straightforward game that fans of classic beat-em-ups will definitely appreciate. And it sure made me want to go back and play other Capcom beat-em-up classics as well. The level design is a gritty love letter to a classic urban crime drama, complete with mobsters, from close quarters brawls where you're throwing punches, grapple moves to hit multiple enemies, or using melee weapons like bats and knives to pulling out your iconic firearms and mowing down enemies. The Punisher keeps the action intense and relentless. It's a nice change of pace and a remarkable piece of Capcom's arcade history, and definitely worth checking out with a friend. Let's dive into where it all began. X-Men Children of the Atom, released in 1994, this was Capcom's first foray in the Marvel Universe, and it set the stage for everything that would come after. Capcom took the very best aspects of their beloved Street Fighter series and fused them with the world of X-Men. What makes Children of the Atom so unique? First, the characters. You got iconic mutants like Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Iceman, Colossus, Psylocke, Juggernaut and Magneto, and even some underrated ones such as Silver Samurai and Spiral. They're all rendered in beautiful 2D sprites with animations that capture their unique powers and fighting styles. As this title marks the beginning of Capcom's relationship with Marvel, it also laid the foundation for what was to come. So maybe playing the X-Men Children of the Atom just for fun or for the experience might be the best approach, since the characters that I mentioned before will be featured in the upcoming titles as well, with more spatial moves, expanded move list, and with fluidity. And if you plan to play its arcade mode by yourself, keep in mind that its arcade difficulty on the default can be pretty frustrating, meaning that it might be best to lower it first to grasp the mechanics or how each character plays. Like the Street Fighter series, each character has specials and even super moves. It's still a 1 vs 1 fighter with fighting mechanics emphasizing aerial combat, special moves and combos, and my advice would be to pick Wolverine first to get used to how it plays, or maybe Psylocke to get used to doing beginner combos, and then perhaps change to Storm or Magneto for the upcoming titles. Since it's my least favorite of this collection, I never even bothered to try it on online matchmaking, and possibly nobody else does. But still, it's an excellent addition to play with your friends or just to experience this classic. Building on X-Men Children of the Atom, Marvel Super Heroes expands the roster beyond just X-Men characters, bringing in fan favorites like Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, Doctor Doom and Captain America, But the most interesting thing is, Marvel Superheroes also builds a foundation that will later be used in the last Marvel vs. Capcom title, the Infinity Stones. This Infinity Stone mechanic allows players to collect gems from their opponent by doing knockdown, special moves, or heavy hits during the fights, and by doing backward fireball double punch, you can use these stones to gain temporary boosts. Depending on the stone you use, this temporary boost also changes. Time Stone makes you fast, Power makes you hit more, Reality adds projectile to your hits, Space grants you super armor, Mind refills your super combo gauge, and Soul constantly heals you. This mechanic is fun to experiment with, but after a while, it entirely focuses on which character you pick and which Infinity Stone to use to finish the opponent. And given that Magneto is, and always will be, quite menace in versus titles, him using the Space Stone to gain super armor, turning him into something broken. Besides Magneto, the roster of Marvel superheroes adds variety and more depth to the Versus series, like Hulk and Doctor Doom brought new fighting styles and personalities to the mix. Playing as Spider-Man felt just as agile and quick as you would expect, while Hulk was a towering force of pure strength, smashing through opponents with brute force, while Iron Man built the foundation of air combos that turn into infinite combos in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It was this diversity of characters and their signature moves that gave Marvel superheroes its distinct identity. But I guess not the Infinity Stones. Marvel superheroes is fun, but mostly suited for funsies and casual play. It's full of chaos, experimenting, and of course, fun. But the real deal fighting experience starts with the next title. Now this is where the true real deal versus series begins. This is where Ryu and Cyclops shook hands. X-Men vs. Street Fighter, also known as my first beloved, introduced the now iconic tag team mechanic, allowing players to switch between two characters during a match while featuring a roster divided between X-Men and Street Fighter. From Ryu, Ken, Kami, Charlie Nash, Chun-Li, Zangief, Dalsim and Bison to Wolverine, Cyclops, Rogue, Gambit, Storm, Sabretooth, Juggernaut and Magneto. X-Men vs. Street Fighter had the art style, the most charming visuals of that era, and the catchiest soundtracks. Basically, this was where the series truly found its identity. First and foremost, the introduced tag team mechanic, which would go on to define the entire Marvel vs. Capcom franchise, works perfectly. The harmony between the roster of X-Men and Street Fighter, how their normals or special moves lead to normal, air or corner combos, are really, and I mean really satisfying. You get to play as two characters for the first time, swapping between them mid-fight as attack, defense or strategic maneuvers. Should you start with Ryu for solid, reliable damage and bring in Wolverine when the enemy's guard is down, or maybe you would zone your rival with Cyclops and then switch to Ken when they are too up and close and personal. On the other hand, one of the most significant innovations was the ability to perform air combos, where players could juggle opponents in the air with a series of attacks before landing a finisher. This feature not only looked flashy but also added a whole new layer of skill to the game, allowing experienced players to string together devastating combos that could quickly turn the tide of a battle. And it wasn't just that. The super meter gauge was further improved both as a mechanic and visual, allowing players to pull off powerful and visually striking super moves when fully charged. Whether it was Cyclops unleashing his devastating optic blast or Ryu pulling off his classic Shinku Hadouken, the super moves in X-Men vs. Street Fighter felt impactful. Since each character had unique super moves, switching between the fighters mid-battle became crucial and experimental side of X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Of course, the roster itself was a dream come true, featuring the best of the 90s. Although it may seem like the roster was lacking, perhaps you may find yourself looking for Spider-Man, Hulk or Iron Man, And that's where the gameplay mechanics, the visuals and the soundtracks come to play and work their magic. Fast-paced, combo-heavy fighting experience can lead to some of the most fun or the most frustrating experiences. But in the end, X-Men vs Street Fighter is too damn fun and still feels very solid to the core. As a direct follow-up to X-Men vs Street Fighter, Marvel Super Heroes vs Street Fighter expanded the roster to include more characters from the broader Marvel universe while introducing the assist mechanic, again building another foundation for the Versus series. The biggest change in Marvel vs Super Heroes vs Street Fighter, besides the assist mechanic, is the roster, which goes beyond just the X-Men and pulls characters from the broader Marvel universe. This means you are no longer limited to the likes of Wolverine and Cyclops. Still, instead you got much wider selection of heroes and villains from Marvel comics, including iconic characters like Captain America, Hulk, and Spider-Man, all of whom bring their own distinct fighting styles and moves to the table. This is where Capcom took a gamble and added Blackheart and Shuma Gorath to make these series also popular in Japan. And you might figure out why. Just like X-Men vs Street Fighter, Marvel Super Heroes vs Street Fighter has again solid visuals, soundtracks and move effects, featuring characteristics from both Marvel and Capcom series. The assist system here allows players to call in their partner character for a quick assist move without actually swapping them into the fight, even allowing to do super moves with your team. It may sound small, but these changes will be further improved and have a bigger impact on Marvel vs Capcom titles. Using the assist to make your combos longer or breaking out of one was a significant tool to use and master in Marvel Super Heroes vs Street Fighter. Though, unfortunately, Marvel Super Heroes vs Street Fighter is a really unfortunate title. It is one of my favorites and I was really looking forward to playing this competitively, but it seems like many people don't prefer it. Although I really enjoy this experience, sadly it is heavily sandwiched between X-Men vs Street Fighter and Marvel vs Capcom 1. So it might be pretty challenging to find online matches for this title. Still, it's heavily recommended to play, it's fun, and I'm willing to play it online if you're also looking for someone to play with. This is the game that truly took the Versus series to the next level. Marvel vs Capcom Clash of Superheroes is iconic, visually stunning, impactful, my very favorite, possibly the fighting game that I played the most during my childhood, and truly one of the best fighting games ever made. It expanded the roster by opening the borders of Capcom franchises, bringing in characters such as Mega Man, Strider Hiryu, Jin Saotome and Captain Commando. Not only that, but they also added the fan favorites such as War Machine, Venom and Morrigan, together with more than 20 assist characters to choose from. These assist characters are non-playable, you call them in to either put pressure on your rival or save yourself from danger, adding even more variety and potential to gameplay customization. Each of these assist characters has different amount of uses per match. Some of these assists like Psylocke, Colossus and Iceman are pretty good, easy to use and effective. Still, some of them requires more specific situations. It is also the most played title right after Marvel vs Capcom 2, and some beasts out there will show you how fluid and solid this game actually is. The reason is, this time Capcom nailed the balance between the action and the strategic depth. In addition to the assist characters, the tag team system was smoother than ever, allowing players to switch between characters with ease, creating devastating combo chains that could juggle opponents across the screen. It wasn't just about managing your main two fighters anymore. Now you had to consider when to call in your assist characters, tag into your second fighter and unleash massive super moves that filled the screen with color, energy and destruction. Whether it was Spider-Man's Maximum Spider, Mega Man's Hyper Mega Buster or Captain Commando's Captain Sword, These moves were visually spectacular and capable of turning the tide of battle in an instant. Still, that's not all. Another innovation in Clash of Superheroes was the introduction of duo team attacks. This mechanic allowed players to unleash both of their characters in an all-out assault simultaneously, which will also become a huge part of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. When activated, both fighters would appear on screen, allowing you to deal maximum damage. Last but not least, Marvel vs. Capcom symbolizes the pinnacle of visual and sound design. First, the art direction ensures that every character, every stage and every move felt vibrant and charming, as the 2D sprites were beautifully animated, capturing the essence of both the Marvel and Capcom characters with incredible attention to detail. Every move, every super attack, every tag-in was animated with flair, bringing these characters to life in a way that felt both faithful to their origins and also perfectly suited for game's high energy battles. And the music, each track is packed with high energy, catchy soundtracks that perfectly complemented the fast-paced combat and bringing out the characters' personalities as well. The soundtracks change when a character gets defeated as the tag character takes the stage, keeping the atmosphere fresh and exciting. I think I might make separate videos for each title in the future, or at least make a Marvel vs. Capcom Legacy video, but in the meantime, play Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes even if you're hyped for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. They are totally different experiences that focus on various aspects of assist and gameplay, and I'm sure you will enjoy them both. Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you here. Thanks to this collection, I get to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes online and competitively for the first time. And now, I understand why people love this game and still play it with love. The possibilities of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 are endless. Its skill gap is limitless and it's too damn addictive. I don't care if an old Marvel vs. Capcom 2 veteran comes up and beats my ass. I don't care even if Justin Wong ends our match within 10 seconds. With a roster of 56 characters, 3 vs 3 team battles and incredibly deep mechanics, it is the collection's crown jewel and definitely one of the greatest fighting games ever made. 3 vs 3 is where the game truly shines. With 3 characters on each team, the action is fast-paced and frenetic, with players constantly swapping fighters in and out, calling in assists, chaining together devastating combos, getting out of tricky situations and looking for a chance to strike. In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, each character has 3 possible assists: Alpha, Beta and Gamma, each offering different types of support during the fight. These 3 possible assist choices might seem a bit intimidating, they might take some time getting used to, but the main idea is to create a team that is in harmony or that will support the character that you mainly play. You might choose a character with a projectile assist like Cable to cover your approach, a healing assist like Son Son to help recover damage for a while, or anti-air hits to stop your rivals, or to create a chance to start dealing some heavy damage with Doctor Doom, Cyclops or maybe Ken. Mastering the timing and usage of these assists is key to success, not just summoning the assist blindly, since those characters can also receive damage when summoned. In addition to that, the delayed hyper combo system adds another layer to the gameplay. This mechanic allows players to chain multiple super moves of their characters in one extended combo if they have enough meters to pull it off. Simply by doing one of your super moves once or twice during the activated spatial, you can summon the second or the third member of your team to increase your damage output. These delayed hyper combo moves are visually spectacular and incredibly satisfying to execute, often turning the tide of a battle in an instant. Whether you're unleashing Iron Man's proton cannon followed by Ryu's Shinku Hadouken, the sheer impact of a well-executed DHC is one of the game's defining thrills and fundamentals of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Since I said something like Marvel vs. Capcom 2's potential and skill ceiling is limitless, let me clarify that one. 56 different characters with 3 different assist moves create a vast pool of choices. Of course, there are some outstanding characters, and of course there are some efficient, maybe broken assist moves, but this also allows you to create a backup plan and also experiment with a new character or an assist move as well. Again, high-level players can dominate by executing high-level tactics like infinite combos, air dashes, and magnetic resets, but don't you worry, although these people have been playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for maybe over 10, 15 or 20 years, and this part of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 may seem intimidating, but on the other hand, a massive part of it is really accessible to newcomers as well. First of all, just pick your 3 favorite characters, maybe mash your buttons, mash your assist buttons, put pressure on your rival, and see how it goes. If you're a newcomer watching this video and looking for some tips and tricks on how to start, I would recommend projectile type Cable, Gambit or Iceman, anti-air type Psylocke, Cyclops and Ken, and last but not least, ground assist type Sentinel to have a breather and open up 2 characters for your liking. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has the most players, whether it be PC or PlayStation. There are lots of people playing it for the first time, meaning there is no excuse to miss this masterpiece. And I guess that's it. That's all you need to know about Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics for now. As I said, I might do additional videos for each title of this collection separately in the future, talking more in depth about the characters, what they present, maybe about the arcade mode as well, but overall, this collection is a love letter to the golden era of arcade fighting games, packed with nostalgia, chaotic tag team battles, and some of the most iconic characters of fighting game history. Whether you're a veteran or a newcomer diving into the collection for the fast-paced 3 vs 3 battles of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or rediscovering the roots of the Versus series with X-Men vs Street Fighter or with the first Marvel vs. Capcom, this collection has something for every fan. Capcom recently shared a tweet about fixing the matchmaking issues on PC, so that leaves the lack of cross-platform the biggest sole issue of this collection. But other than that, it's a must-play experience that every fighting game fan should have. As always, thank you for watching today's video. Which title of this collection should I feature next? Write down your thoughts in the comments below. Any humble support through Patreon and YouTube join is really appreciated, and I will see you soon in my next video.